168. Let's get to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which is the second in the franchise. It came out in 1984, once again directed by Steven Spielberg. Stars Harrison Ford, Kate Capshaw, Ke Huy Quan. Sorry if I said that name wrong. And honestly, not a lot of others. Dan Aykroyd is in there briefly. And the synopsis is in 1935, Indiana Jones is tasked by Indian villagers with reclaiming a rock stolen from them by a secret cult beneath the catacombs of an ancient palace. So when I first started, getting into the franchise, I went in order 1 through 4 because 5 had not been out at that point. And I had heard kind of mixed things about, well, it's a step down, or some people just didn't like it really at all. So I didn't really know exactly what to expect. And I've seen, as I said with the first review, I've seen all of them probably 4, 5, 6 times at least. And I think each time I watch it, it is, spoiler, it is my least favorite. If I had to pick my least favorite, I really, really like all of them. But if I had to pick my least favorite, it would be this one. And I think that I don't mind the darkness of how it gets into the tribal voodoo sort of stuff, like the rituals and sacrifices. I think all that is pretty daring and kind of refreshing for an adventure movie like this, especially for the 80s. But probably the biggest thing is I think that even though the horror and darkness work, sometimes the humor, the humor really is what makes the character in some ways work better than others. And the humor is kind of lacking in this. I get that they want to have a more dramatic take at times. That's fine, but the tone and also the structure of the story is lesser than the first and definitely lesser than 3, which we'll get to. But I just find myself sort of drifting at times, and it takes a little while to get going. Like there's that big build up to getting to the catacombs, and then once you get there, I'm pretty in. But there's the elephant journey and the time getting to know those new characters, which I love. Short Round, of course, that's an iconic character, and that actor is very good. I'm glad he's sort of had a bit of a renaissance over the last few years. But the biggest issue, and I think it seems to be the most popular, agreed upon issue, is Kate Capshaw as Willie, who actually went on to be Steven Spielberg's wife. Fun fact. And nothing against her as a person or anything like that, but I more so blame the writing because that character is truly, hate to say it, just annoying, tiring, repetitive. It just wears on me the whole time. She's always yelling, she's always complaining. And I get that there's oftentimes a character who is put into a big adventure, epic, scary adventure, and they don't want to be there. They don't know how to do those things. I'm fine with that idea, but I think that the character and even, partially the performance could have been toned down to where, I don't know, I just don't really see the big appeal of having that character act that way so much. And I think the chemistry between her and Indy are good. That's strong. But really, it's just the more time that goes on, the more scary, uncertain situations that they are put into. I just wish she would dial it down. I hate to sound so mean, but I really cannot deal with that character. And I think that if she either was a different kind of character or that overall creation was changed, I think this movie would be higher on the list. But I think that's honestly, every time I watch it, I just cannot get past it, and it always brings it down. And I hate that because I think the rest of the movie pretty darn solid, really, really a good sequel. And I like how they create an entirely new story as they do with each one. That's another thing that makes me really love this franchise as it went along, is it's not just saying, oh, well, this artifact from the last movie, it got stolen again. I mean, occasionally little things pop up, but it's not just repeating things from the Lost Ark and let's continue that story. It's, all right, Indy is on a new adventure. Great. They're standalone, self-contained movies, but just with the same character. So they're almost like an anthology series, I guess. So still do really like the movie score, the visuals. I mean, all the effects look awesome. The production design is really creepy and weird and strange and really memorable and visceral. And I think that's something that I'm always in awe of every time I watch it. It's definitely some of the strongest of all 5 movies. And talking about some other standout scenes, The sequence or the sacrifice where you see the guy lowered into the fire, amazing. The big action sequence towards the end on the bridge where there's the crossing and the hand-to-hand fights, and then the bridge is destroyed and everybody falls, as well as the sequence where Indy and Short Round are stuck in that enclosing room and they're covered in different bugs and creepy insects and all that. Like, it has really good, very human phobias, and you can imagine how uncomfortable most people would be in a lot of the situations that Indy is put in. You know, he's not able to push through everything, and he can't do everything right. He can't always get out of the situation himself. He needs help sometimes, and sometimes he does screw up. So, yeah, I think that, it's one that I can always enjoy a lot. Like, it's a great movie. Absolutely no denying that for me. But there are, sadly, the more standout issues that the others, some people really hate on 4. I actually really like 4 at this point. Probably a hot take, but I actually prefer 4 over 2. And we'll get to that in that review, so stay tuned. But I think that this one is always the one that I have the most glaring problems with, and it is the hardest to forgive because they're so in your face. So, light 4.5 out of 5.